Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting for the Council and Committee for the Town of Petawawa to order for November 25th, 2024. We'll start this evening's meeting off by reading the land acknowledgement, and this evening it is Mike. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Petawawa Town Council and our community that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Omama Miwini Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Omami Winini people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for the many continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibility in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action. Calls to action number 33. We call upon the federal, provincial, and territorial governments to recognize as a high priority the need to address and prevent fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and to develop in collaboration with Aboriginal people FASD preventative programs that can be delivered in a culturally appropriate manner. Some recent progress: fetal alcohol spectrum disorder funding through Indigenous Services Canada is part of a suite of community-based investments in healthy child development that continue to support access to a continuum of services aimed to improve health outcomes for First Nations and Inuit infants, children, families, and communities. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on any of this evening's matters? There are no presentations, so we'll get started right off this evening with FIN-20-2024 in regards to the 2023 Annual Development Charges Statement. Christine Leon.
I'm back talking about development charges. So FIN-19-2024 was the request to approve these transfers in and out of waters and sewer, as well as development charge reserves. So this report is basically the formal legislative reporting requirement to council and the public. So the end result will be that this will be publicly made available on our website and upon request to any members of the public. So it's basically its own mini income statement, balance sheet, if you will, as it relates to development charges. Just because it is legislatively heavy, there's also the corresponding reporting requirements that go along with it. So what did we collect? What did we spend? And then also at that, not only at that higher level, but at the individual project level as well as service level. So you can see in the attachments, it's broken out into the different service level or services that we collect development charges for. It's not just one big pool of funds, but it's actually broken out by services such as water, sewer, library, general, transportation, and fire. I think that's all of them. So again, this is just a formal reporting requirement with a minor correction. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Saurin. So if you could go to the annual treasurer's statement, so the first page following the report. This is basically your continuity schedule for the year of 2023. The opening balance should be January 1st, 2023. So the end of 2022 or opening January 1st, 2023. And there you can see money going in as well as the money coming out that council already approved in the previous report 2 weeks ago. So pause there, happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, just before we go to questions, I guess I was in a big hurry to get things started tonight. I forgot to welcome members of council, members of staff, members of studio audience, and of course the thousands of viewers watching at home. Now we'll open it up. I guess the annual treasurer statement. Does council have any questions or comments? No? Hey, I love the way this is laid out, and it's a great way for us to look at, where everything is collected and where it's going and where it's being spent. So thanks for that. Okay, I guess we'll go to phase 2.
I guess, or page 2 or attachment 1.
Oh, attachment 1?
Uh,
Attachment 1.
Yeah, so again, it's just a different way to present the money coming out of the development charges allocated by projects. So again, you've already seen this, it's just the presentation, again, from a legislative perspective in terms of what the cost was and how much was funded from development charges versus tax supported. So there are projects that, yes, benefit the existing population, but also the growth in population. So it's how we balance those funding sources. So it's showing council as well as the public how we're paying for these growth activities. And then the last attachment is, well, what do we have at the bank at the end of the year? And what could those funds be going towards? So in terms of capital project planning, forecasting into outer years. Again, these are the projects that are DC eligible. So if there's something on this list, or not on this list, excuse me, that is being driven by growth, that could actually require us to do another development charges background study. So if there's something significant that moves the needle, so to speak, in terms of what we need to collect development charges for, then we would need to do the exercise again that we just did this time. So, and these projects are for 2023, which was on our old development charges background study, but having just completed one in 2024, you'll see a new list or an updated list for the 2024 annual statement that I'll bring forward. And also the legislative requirement is that we can't just be collecting development charges for the fun of collecting development charges. We do need to have at least 60% of our balances collected allocated to each service level. So as you can see, for example, I'll just take the first service of water. So 60% of the year-end balance for water is approximately $36,000. We do have a $67,000 or $68,000 project in the queue. So we've met that threshold of having more than 60% of our development charges allocated. So it's just, again, it's a math exercise and a reporting exercise to hold us accountable and transparent with how we will be or could be spending our development charges in the future.
Okay, questions on attachment 1 and attachment 2? Deputy Mayor Sutton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Christine. So Christine, if I'm looking at attachment 2, 2023 year-end balances are identified. Is it fair to say then that all of these projects, because we're now at the end of 2024, have actually been allocated those development charges? And I guess my question is, if the answer is no, is there a certain, when you say the 60% of balance allocated at a minimum, for example, does that have to be used in the following year, or does it just have to be identified for a project?
It's the latter. It's identified for a project. There's no requirement that we have to collect and spend immediately and turn it around. So we don't have to do everything in 2025. Our development charges study actually covers 10 years. So the calculations and all of those projects are anticipated or forecasted out over 10 years. And then through the magical world of math, we kind of back into, based on the growth that's anticipated over those 10 years, how will that growth help to fund those growth capital projects? So it's kind of backing into what those development charges are. So it's essentially over 10 years. It's not even 3 or 5 years. It's over 10 years how we will fund our growth.
Supplemental, too?
Yes, please, supplemental. Okay, so based on that feedback, so we have just undertaken both the fire master plan study as well as a recreational master plan. There's the information that is percolated that comes out of that, that we could, when you said earlier, if we want to look at something else for these funds, they're not cast in concrete. But they are strongly recommended, from the staff team and with the business that needs to be done. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, yes, the beauty of the timing, as well as the lessons learned, is we timed our development charges study while we were in process of doing a recreation master plan and fire master plan. So it was a blessing and a curse just from we knew or anticipated what was going to go into those master plans. So we were able to put in most of the things in our development charges study. However, if there's something that comes up next year or assumptions change and we can't predict the future, then yes, we would have to redo a study just to make sure that we're charging development charges accurately and appropriately.
Your turn.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Christine, a question about your annual treasurer's statement. The line that says repayment of money borrowed from fund and associated interest. So that's not something that we do on a regular basis. I don't think I've seen it happen in my time on council, but I know it did happen in the past. There's got to be rules associated with borrowing from one development charge account to fund another development charge account. Are those spelled out in the Development Charges Act, or do we have a policy that dictates how that happens? Just curious.
So it is legislated within the Development Charges Act. So it's probably Peter to say Paul type of analogy. If you're going to be borrowing from yourself, there is a minimum interest rate that does need to be calculated and charged within the development charge fund itself. However, that's legislated. It's not within our current policy. It defers to the legislation. There's nothing in our policy right now that prevents us or from doing that. It's my preference that we don't, because we have, like I said, we've calculated development charges based on our anticipated growth. And if we're going to be borrowing from within our development charges, it's one of those things where that means we haven't had enough growth to pay for that growth initiative. So when we bring the budget forward to council, I do take into consideration how much we have and estimate how much we're collecting over the years if we can fund that project within the anticipated.
Other questions from the members of the council? Any further questions? Okay, thanks again, Christine. I think these charts and attachments are really well laid out. It gives council and the public a very good snapshot of where our DC charges are getting collected, where they're being allocated, and a really good look at the future in terms of what our roadmap is across all of our departments and where we hope to be. And I think the DC are an essential tool for a community like us that is growing so fast. And we've seen it recently with urbanization of our roads, and that's only going to be increasing, where we have to put in more sidewalks and storm drains, multi-use pathways. We're seeing it as well in our expansion of wastewater system. If we want to continue to grow, these are big ticket items, and we need sources of revenue to help us with all this expansion. So thanks for this. It's great, and I'm looking forward to all of these plans coming to fruition moving forward. Okay, any other questions? And I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Deputy Mayor Savard. The council receives the Development Charges Treasurer's Statement 2023 as required under Section 43, Paragraph 1 of the Development Charges Act 1997 S.O.1997 and O.Reg 82/98, and the council accepts the treasurer's declaration that the town complies with Section 59.1, Paragraph 1 of the Development Charges Act, 1997, and that the treasurer's statement is made available on the town's website or upon request. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much, Christine. Okay, next up, we have the Planning and Development Monthly Report for November 2024. Melanie's up. What's going on though? Bill?
Just a few. So start with the monthly report for November. Appendix A, introduced to you last month, shows the status of all the active planning applications that we have before us. Appendix B is the monthly building report showing the permits. Just for comparison, this year to last year at this time, we had 255 permits issued. We're at 278 so far this year. The number of permits is up, as is the building permit values. The actual building permit fees is a little bit less than last year. It shows more smaller things. In terms of other things that we've been up to this month besides planning applications, they're for you in the report. Just call a couple things out. Many of you attended the community open house on November 15th for the urban agriculture proposal that we have. So thank you for coming out to that. We are still working through that application with the applicant, but there'll be something before council soon. November 19th, our building department hosted the Upper Ottawa Valley Ontario building officials, which was nice to see. We had about 12 chief building officials and building inspectors here in the chambers for an afternoon. They had a technical presentation as well as a round table. But a nice thing is that chapter won $150 gift card from their initial conference, and they donated it to our food camp. The same day, it was a busy day. We had the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation here for the day as well. So they reviewed their software with us and where they get their data from, and we shared where we didn't think the data was accurate. And we had an open session in the afternoon talking through some of the stuff that came as well. So that was very productive. And they took a lot of things back with them, and they have asked to do that a couple of 2 times a year. Good to have an open dialogue with them too. And I just wanted, the last thing I wanted to point out was I had hoped to have a planning report on the new provincial planning statement, actually it's called, for this meeting, but there's some issues accessing the online training from the ministry. So we're just getting through that now, so I'll open that and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Are there any questions from council on the active planning application chart, the monthly building report, or the report as a whole? I think you're laying it out in such detail now, we don't have to ask questions anymore. And I can't say enough about the active planning application chart. It's just great the way it's laid out. It tells us everything that your department is doing and all of the different aspects of those applications and where they are. So that really it's hard to have questions because everything is there in front of you. And it's great to see all the number of permits that are ongoing, and we still have November and December to go. So it's great to see our town growing. And it's obvious your department is very busy. Okay, no questions? And I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that the Planning and Development Monthly Report for November be accepted as information. Call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next we'll go to PL-32-2024. Proposed official plan amendment number 21 and zoning bylaw amendment Z-184. DAG/Thompson 2337C, Petawawa Boulevard, part of lot 7, range 2. Ellen.
Okay, this report is for information only tonight. The public meeting is next week at 6 o'clock for this application. Basically what happened here, and it's laid out in the report, is that two properties were purchased that were side by side. And when the second real estate transaction was registered, it was put in the same name as the first, and the two properties have merged into one. It only came to light, when the owners attempted to sell the properties, and it came up that they had merged in title. So the official plan amendment, the zoning amendment, are to put those two parcels back to where they were before the merge. So that is kind of the backstory of severance. A consent application has been applied for at the county. An official plan amendment is required because we require a lot to have public road frontage. And the severed lot was not, it has it's fronts on the registered on title. Most people actually don't even realize that it's not a municipal road. This is just north of Pineview. So that's why the official plan amendment is required, because it doesn't have the frontage thing of the zoning amendment. And then the other part of the zoning bylaw amendment is to just recognize the slightly reduced lot area, lot frontage. And the front and rear yards don't meet the zoning requirements. So that's what the zoning amendment is for, as well as recognizing the lack of public road frontage. And I think that's all I want to.
Okay, questions on the report? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Melanie, does the merging of the two properties, that's something that gets triggered automatically because the same person owns adjacent lots, or how exactly does that happen?
Yes, I recall from my early in my career working at the county and working on hundreds of severance a year. This does happen, and it happens more often than you would think. It's something to be very careful about when you're buying adjacent properties, that this doesn't happen.
Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate the clarification because my question was going to be, how does this merging occur? And, you know, it seems like, you know, it's an error. And so it's just rectifying what previously existing condition, regardless of when it happened. And usually that's when you find those kind of things out when you go to sell or something like that. Because why would we know?
In this particular case, the applicant said that at the time, the lawyer doing the transaction said, I hope these don't burn. And they did. So this is rectifying that.
Further questions on the report? I just have a couple quick questions in terms of the registered right of way. So if it's not a municipal road, obviously we aren't following it. So is it up to the three property owners down that registered right of way to maintain that road during the winter months?
Yes, it is. And it's been like that for them.
Just to follow up on that line of questioning, because I know the one lot that is for sale presently is quite a large lot that could be potentially severed in the future. If the one in behind was severed and wanted a driveway or access on the registered right of way, how does one go about that process? Because obviously they couldn't have another driveway onto Petawawa Boulevard.
Just to make sure I understand, so you're talking about not the severed parcel in this case, but the
2325, if
Right.
that were to be severed, and another house to put on the new seven of 2325 being split into two.
that would be an issue, right? Creating a new lot and it's not something that we would recommend.
Okay, any further questions or comments? All right, so we'll receive that as information and then look forward to the public meeting next Monday. Okay, next we have PL-33-2024, proposed official plan amendment number 22 for Mr. Clark, 7th Street, registered plan 547, lots 1 and 7. Melanie, you're up again.
Again, this is for information purposes. The public meeting on the official plan amendment is next Monday. This basically involves, there's two vacant lots in this subdivision. District 5 owns them both. They're lots 1 and 7 in the subdivision. They're large, 1+ acre lots that developed in the 80s. Back when that was kind of a well and septic size of lots. Municipal water is now in the subdivision, still on the septic system. So if you look at the zoning bylaw, these lots, 7 and a half, meet the zoning requirements for a lot of financial services. They just don't meet the official plan policy that says you can't set a lot in the front. And that consent policy is intentional, that subdivisions are designed based on studies, hydrogeological studies that determine the number and size of lots. In this case, with the advent of municipal water into the subdivision, it changes that perspective. So nitrate impact assessments were done for these properties to see if it could be covered, and they could each handle the septic system. That was part of your report. The assessments came back that with advanced treatment systems, a lot could be covered, and they could handle basically 2 septic systems on each. And so this is what the application that Mr. Clark has put forward, is to cover each of those lots. So that instead of 1 house per lot, they'll now be 2. Both serve all service with municipal water. So the official plan amendment is to exempt them from the policy that says you can't separate them. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Questions on that report? I did ask a couple of questions earlier today, just for council's information. The class 4 and the upgrades on the septic system. Just wanted to comment on the 50% fewer nitrates and.
Right, so the report came back that the types of septic systems that will have to be used are ones that reduce the quantity of nitrogen by 50% or greater. And so those requirements will be captured in a development agreement for these properties. And the development agreement will also have language that says when it comes time to replace these systems, equivalent or better technology will need to be used in the future as well.
Thanks. And I also asked Melanie another question about the possible, would the severance go through, there would be a driveway onto Durham Road, which is a county road. And you probably saw in the report that the county has said that's not a problem, that they can have a driveway access to Durham Road. But it does cross one of our multi-use pathways, which is down deep in a ditch. So the driveway would have to be quite a bit elevated as opposed to where our muff is. And as Melanie indicated, it would be the developer's responsibility to rehabilitate them up and make sure that it's of a suitable grade that are attract with vehicles and not have to climb straight up and access that. I just thought I'd let you know that too. Any other questions on your side? Okay, so we'll receive that as information as well, and a second public meeting next Monday. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Public Works Monthly Report for October 2024. Chris, is your department all ready for tomorrow's first big winter event?
Ready. Yeah. Ready and waiting. A long wait. All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's go through the update for October. Under Public Works Expansion, quick update there. Things are moving along really well with the building. Essentially, the outside is pretty much complete. The siding came in last week, so that's the last item for the exterior. Will be the exterior siding. It should be going on this week. Plumbing's complete. Drywall installation is almost complete, along with insulation. Doors and frames are being installed. Exterior stoneworks are complete. Generator pad is poured, and the front entrance concrete and sidewalk are complete. So moving along nicely. Just one update, the parking lot paving and curbing will be held over until spring, just due to the temperature and the time of year. Obviously, we want the best possible quality outcome there, so we're gonna wait. But all in all, it's going really well. Again, really good feedback from staff, so anybody wants to come tour it now, there's lots more to see, so stop by. And moving on down, Comfort Station complete, Hope Avenue complete, Murphy Road is nearing completion, and I was told last week at our last on-site construction meeting that they would be complete by the end of this week. So I noticed today they were finishing up paving of driveway tie-ins and restoration work, so it's going really well. And we were fortunate to have some nice fall weather that's allowed us to be where we are. So yeah, I'm excited for winter to come, but it's good that it waited a couple extra weeks. Under fleet procurement, the EV charging station is complete. Cars there, new decals on it, was pretty good. So I know we have one more item. We have to find a way to be able to shut the charger off at night, just so that it's not on in the overnight hours, to discourage people from coming and using our charge station after hours. So we're gonna fix that up. That's one item outstanding on it. And then you'll notice I changed the 2025 budget planning on page 101 of the report, just to give council a little bit of a better look at the roads and transportation projects that are being looked at for budget. And of course, with the new financial plan that we're bringing in for budget forecasting for multiple years, you'll probably see some of these projects not for 2025, but shown in subsequent years on the budget plan, but they are there. We are working on those projects. And then water and sewer infrastructure upgrades as well, a little bit more in depth on those, and then civic properties being added into the public works fold. So we're working on those budget items as well. Under operations, it's pretty status quo there. Under public works on page 103, echoing what Mayor Service said, we are ready for winter. Trucks are all ready, spreaders are ready, sidewalk units are ready. Staff have been kind of jumping at the bit to see some snow falling. So we'll be in great shape tomorrow if we do get some weather tonight. Under procurement on page 104, we did have 2 requests for quotations go out for some additional work around the public works yard. Both those have closed, and work has started on the new roll gate. The new overhead door for the salt shed should be starting soon as well. So those 2 items are on their way. And then the community transportation grant program, we have Dawn here tonight to present a report for that. So we'll just go over that one. And then under civic properties, the routes, it mentions routine maintenance on the HVAC unit. Town hall, they discovered a crack in the heat exchanger. That unit has been changed as an emergency replacement. So everybody here at town hall will have heat when they need it. So that's good. Yeah, I did hear that it was cold for a couple of days, so we moved quick on that one. And then there's a waste management update, compliments of Trevor Woodkey. And under water and sanitary on page 107, nothing major to flag there. So happy to take any questions on the report.
Thanks, Chris. Pretty comprehensive report. Any questions from council? Councilor Driscoll.
Quick one for the EV charging you're talking about. We're not planning on charging that overnight. So with it, we're not charging overnight, more just going to charge during the day for.
Yeah, so it would depend on usage during the day. If during the day they used a lot and required charging overnight, they can leave it plugged in. But right now it seems like the charger works quite quickly. So if there are some moments during the day that just plug it in and then it's fully charged, they're going to leave it unplugged overnight. So if that's the case, we'd like the ability to be able to shut the power to the charger, so that's not it's not a work for people to come and do some charging on our site.
Yeah, and then just one more, with the transportation project, I think you have the Albert phase 2. Do we see the island you drive? I thought the bump is kind of the whole way down already, or where am I missing? That would be.
No, so that, Albert Street construction was from Victoria to Louise, so that first phase, so the mop ends there right now. There is a paved shoulder for people to walk on, but, that project needs to be completed from where we left off to Island View.
Okay, thanks.
Deputy Mayor Samber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris, for your report. Just on the roads and transportation project, I'd like to just circle back to Carla and then, Jason, that's also wanted to do stuff there. They're in really rough shape. I'm just wondering, when they're going to be explored for that rehabilitation, because there's some sections that are really, really bad, and certainly on Jason. I've had discussion with some of the neighbors in that area, and pieces of pavement broken off and water's pooling there and things like that. So I know there are a lot of projects and a lot of priorities to keep our streets, and it's just more of a when is it going to be looked at kind of situation potentially.
Yep, so both of those projects will be, budgeted, this year, and, we'll get them in one for 2025, one for 2026. Of course, to be approved at council level, but you will see them in the budget proposal this year.
Thank you.
Are those the types of projects that could be in-house?
In-house.
As well? Yeah.
Yes.
Right on. Further questions or comments on the report? Okay, if everybody's comfortable, then I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that the Public Works Monthly Report for October be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next we have PW-30-2024 options for speed reduction on County Road 51 Petawawa Boulevard between Golf Course Road and Sophie Drive in the town of Petawawa. You're up again, Chris.
All right, thank you, Mayor Service. Yes, so we're back, with this item. Staff is seeking council direction, with the following options to pursue. Option number one is that council requests the County of Renfrew to lower the speed limit on County Road 51, Petawawa Boulevard, from 80 kilometers to 60 kilometers per hour between Golf Course Road and Sophie Drive within the town of Petawawa. In addition, a community safety zone will be implemented at Pine View Public School, which will include community safety zone signage, flashing lights to alert drivers of the school zone, along with school zone painted on the road. Option number two is essentially the same as option number one. The only difference is the proposed speed limit reduction is from 80 kilometers to 70 kilometers per hour. So some of the background on this report, in July of this year, Public Works staff brought report PW 2024. It's attachment number one before council, and we provided options regarding proposed changes to the speed limit on Petawawa Boulevard or leaving the speed limit status quo. From that meeting, town council requested staff engage the County of Renfrew to conduct a traffic study to see if the options being considered by the town align with the County of Renfrew traffic study. The county traffic study, attachment number two, is provided for you to review, and some of the key recommendations included the County of Renfrew staff would likely support a reduction in the posted speed limit to 70 kilometers per hour if the town requested the reduction. The dedication of the community safety zone in the area of Pine View Public School, and the installation of flashing beacons and additional signage pavement markings within the Pine View Public School zone. Under discussion, Public Works staff have reviewed the county's traffic study and generally agree with findings. This speed reduction to County Road 51 Petawawa Boulevard is warranted, and additional safety measures at Pine View schools will make this busy arterial roadway safer. The proposed community safety zone at Pine View School, as mentioned before, will carry double speed fines in the school zone, along with extra signage and flashing lights to alert drivers that they are entering the school zone. I provided the chart there that shows the commuting time changes based on proposed changes to the speed limits for your review. And then under financial implication, the County of Renfrew will cover the costs of the required signage upgrades should we proceed with a speed reduction. Cost for the flashing lights and for the additional pavement markings would be shared 50-50 between the town and County of Brantford. Staff has estimated this cost to be approximately $7,000, excluding HST, of which the town would be responsible for $3,500. And this expense would be funded through the Public Works Operations budget. There's one item that I should have transferred over from the report that I provided in July, and that was the $1,600 to provide community education through the radio stations if there is a speed reduction. So I would certainly say that that's important to still have a consideration for those funds as well to provide some education to the public with regards to the proposed speed reduction. And that's it for the report. Happy to take any questions on that.
Before I open up for questions, did the county in your discussions with them and their operations department make any mention of the fact that where this could become a community safety zone, that there might be a willingness on the county's part, because it is their road, to install speed monitoring devices?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So there has been talk of the county engaging in a new program in 2025 to for similar to a photo radar type scenario. And the county did state that that would probably be one of the first places they would like to test that technology would be at the school.
Okay, thanks for that. Questions on the report? Deputy Mayor Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Chris. Chris, thank you for bringing this back. I thought the report was excellent to start with. I think the key recommendations are really, really strong. When I attended the county's day or evening of services and whatnot, I spoke with the director who pertinent at that time and talked with him about this. And so, I'm just chuckling a little bit as I like you to support the reduction in 70 because with me, he was very clear and very adamant about his reasons why. And so I think that is a great first step. And I think, and with the potential of having the photo radar, you really only need to get 1 or 2 tickets, and that will discourage you from going above the speed limit. I think combined with the safety measures and public education, pay attention. That's also one of the key findings here is we need to pay attention to fast-paced world. There are very vulnerable people walking in that area, and we want to keep all the children safe at all times. So thank you very much.
Councillor Root.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I just want to mention, just like Deputy Savage said, I'm so glad to see the additional safety measures put in place at the school. I think that public awareness is so important there, and in that one area, especially there with the shot control. That's why I'm just very happy to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thanks for bringing this report to us. Chris, I can say that I'll support option number 3, which will be no reduction in the speed limit, and with the introduction of a community safety zone and associated signage around Pineview School. So my rationale for this is that the data in this report, the traffic study provided by the county, clearly shows that there is no speeding issue on the boulevard. There's none. And traffic collision statistics of 107 collisions over a 10-year period is approximately 10 a year. And we have a roadway that has an average volume of 12,000 cars a day. That's 360,000 cars a month and 1 collision a month. That makes for a very safe road. That's probably one of the safest roads we have in our community. And the statement, I got a chuckle out of the statement that the county staff would likely support a request for a speed reduction. That is very different than saying that the county supports a speed reduction based on data. Because they're saying we'd support a request for a speed reduction. They're not saying that the data indicates that a speed reduction is required or necessary for that matter, which is consistent with what the OPP has to say. The OPP says there is no speeding problem on Petawawa Boulevard, and they use data for those statistics, basically the collision data being a big one. The time to travel, I'm not sure what the information is being attempted to be conveyed with that, those statistics. Because I tend to think of cars on the boulevard like current and wire, and the speed limit is the resistance. And if you lower that speed limit, you're getting fewer cars through. Your 360,000 cars a month that travel on that roadway are not going to change. That's just going to go up. And those cars still have to get to where they're going in a certain amount of time. And it's going to take longer to push that many vehicles through that road if you reduce that speed limit. And in closing, that boulevard, as the report states, is a big, wide, 3-lane road with one major curve. Other than that, it's straight as an arrow. Great sight lines. Great sight lines and very few accidents. So I see no reason to lower the speed limit on the boulevard from 80 to anything lower than that. So I won't support either option 1 or 2. As I say, I'll support option 3, which includes the installation of a community safety zone and associated signage around the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thank you sincerely, Chris, for bringing this back. For myself, I think the thing to highlight is something highlighted in the county's letter, which is the nature of the roadway and the number of permitted turnings. This is a very mixed-use road, and I think a key piece of data is the stopping distance. So for me, that's the safety aspect, that's the preventative measure. So we're densifying, they're not getting smaller. And so as those cars increase, I think it's important to give more space and time for people's reaction, especially for increasingly distracted society. I'm in favor of reduction to 70. That was my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will echo what James says. I agree with leaving it at 80. I understand this really spurred after a freak accident at Pineview, which could have been detrimental, but it wasn't. They have a sidewalk that's separated by 6 to 7 meters in the area off the roadway, the on the other side, which leaves lots of room for active transportation. There's no kids walking directly on the side of the road, with it also a 1.5 meter paved shoulder. The amount of vehicles that do go through there with the amount of accidents is very low. And I would be interested to see how many other roads have that little amount of accidents or that amount of vehicle traffic. So with that, I will stay with that. I think 80 would be for me. I won't be going no for either of the other spots.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor Service. First, just one question with regards to the pedestrian crossing that is proposed in one of the letters from Bristol. Is that part, are we looking to have that included when we look at the community safety zone as it's currently laid out?
No, not at this time. That would have to be looked at as a separate item. We would have to seek county approval for the crossing because it is their road allowance. So and because of the cost involved in that, it would have to come as a separate report and be looked at as a separate budget item. So no, it wasn't included as part of this report and safety measures associated.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm concur with Lisa in that we do need to as we're growing, we need to look at keeping our communities safe.
Thank you. Just a question on Councillor Donovan's mention of the PSO crossing. There must be a minimum speed limit before you can apply one of those crossings on a road. Is there a minimum speed limit before you could put one of those on? Because I don't think you could put a crosswalk on an 80-kilometer highway.
An excellent question. I'm not sure of the answer, to be honest. Yeah, so the PXOs that I'm familiar with, they're typically in 40 or 50-kilometer-an-hour zones. I would have to confirm that, their service, not sure of that. My focus on this report, I think, was sticking with the road itself, as Councillor Patu mentioned, the number of entrances, the access on and off of the boulevard, and then the associated safety measures around the school. The PXO, the crossing, there's other items there too, like if you're crossing them to Airport Road, where are you crossing them to? You're crossing them to a paved shoulder, which is not what I would consider the most appropriate pedestrian conveyance. It's not a concrete sidewalk. It's not separated from the road with the barrier curve like we see on Murphy Road where the multi-use pathway is. So there's some items there to consider that I think should be kept. The PXO should be looked at separate. The boulevard speed and the safety measures that are proposed here for the school are the right way to look at this for now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for bringing this report back to us again. I know you put a lot of work into this and a lot of discussions with the county. And I think it is our largest roadway, even though it's owned by the county. It's an integral part of our community. And the fact that there's 12,000 cars on it daily shows you how busy it is. I probably drive in this road 6 or 7 times every day. Every time I leave my house, I have to go on this road, whether I'm going to Pembroke or Petawawa. Today I drove on the road 6 times. I left my house 3 times and went back, and I still have to go back home on that road. I know the statistics say that there's not a lot of speeding, but it all depends on when we put the black cat out and then the OPP is out there monitoring the speed. In my experience, like I've been passed several times by somebody taking the center lane where you're not supposed to pass, and I've witnessed people passing others on that center lane, and they're speeding. All of the accidents, and I know there's been few, but all of the ones I've witnessed have been quite serious and probably preventable if people were going 60 instead of 80 to 100 kilometers. The thing that sticks out to me is there's 12 bus stops on that stretch of road and 33 children. Twice a day, they're either getting on a bus or getting off a bus. And if that was one of my kids, and I knew people were going 80 to 100 and having to stop when the school bus stop sign goes out, it quite frankly would frighten me. I understand the county's thinking, and they have a lot of policies and processes when it comes to placing speed limits on their various roads. And I know because this one has a turning lane in the middle, they say that it's a road more attuned to a higher speed limit. But on that very same road, when you travel to Pembroke and you hit Petawawa Toyota and the Honda, it's the same road. It also has a turning lane in the middle, and the speed limit drops to 60. There's 1 or 2 residential homes on that road, the rest are businesses. Here in Petawawa, we have 89 residential driveways on that road. So the justification for lowering it to 60 on that Pembroke stretch, when there's maybe 1 or 2 residential driveways, and here in Petawawa, we have quite a few residential driveways. So a lot of cars turning on and turning off of that road, and you don't have a turning lane for every driveway. You could almost come to a stop before you turn into your driveway, and you have cars going 80 to 100 coming up behind you. I just want to compare it to the 6-kilometer stretch of road in Deep River. And I know that's the Trans-Canada Highway, which is an even bigger and busier highway. That 6-kilometer stretch has 90 to 100 driveways on it. Our stretch has 89 driveways. The stretch in Deep River has 21 businesses, with access to the road. We have 34 commercial properties on our 6 kilometer stretch. There are 7 off roads, off streets on the Deep River 6 kilometer stretch. We have 20 off streets in that 6 kilometer stretch. The speed limit from the start to the finish of the 6 kilometer stretch in Deep River is 60 kilometers an hour. How is that any different than our stretch of road here in Petawawa? And as Councillor Coutu and Donovan, Deputy Mayor Savern said, we're only going to get bigger. There's a proposed subdivision on Flat Bay Road just off the boulevard. It's about 70 homes, and all of those cars are going to be turning onto this road. So whether we do it now or do it later, eventually this is going to be a road that's 60 kilometers. It has to be because of the safety of our residents and the safety of our kids. I would like to reduce it right now to 60, but it sounds like it's looking like 70. But I would be quite comfortable reducing it to 60 now for the safety of all of our residents, and especially the 12 bus stops and the 33 kids that have to get on and off a bus every day here in Petawawa. Okay, so it looks like we have 3 different options. We have option 1, which is reducing it from 80 to 60 with the proposed community safety zone and all of the extra signage on the road and beside the road. Option 2 is from 80 to 70 with the proposed community safety zone by the county, signage on the side of the road, flashing lights and signage on the road. And then we have option number 3, which is leave everything the same. But did I hear put the community safety zone in as well? I guess there's an option number 4, which is to do nothing. So I'm looking for a motion for one of those options. Councillor Kern.
I'll move to make a motion to implement option number 3, which is no reduction in the speed limit, the implementation of the community safety zone around Pineview School with associated signage.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Councillor Driscoll. Are there any questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? What do I say? Not carried? Defeated? Okay. Does anybody else have an additional motion? No.
Oh, I was gonna motion for options we got. We request the county director to lower the speed limit on the county road from 80 to 70 with the associated community safety zones.
Okay, moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Savern. You want me to read the recommendation? You know it's option 2? Option. Okay. Any questions or comments on the motion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Those opposed? I'll go in favor. Motion is carried. Do I have to read the recommendation now? Yeah. Okay. So it's moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Savern, that council requests the County of Brantford to lower the speed limit on County Road 51, Petawawa Boulevard, from 80 kilometers an hour to 70 kilometers an hour between Golf Course Road and Silky Drive within the town of Petawawa. In addition, a community safety zone will be implemented at Pineview Public School, which will include community safety zone signage, flashing lights to alert drivers of the school zone, along with the school zone painted on the road. Good?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. That was a fulsome report and a good discussion by all members of the council. Okay, we'll go to PW-31-2024, proposed speed reduction on gravel portion of Rance Road. Chris, you're up with reducing speeds everywhere.
That seems like a common theme. This one hopefully will be a little easier. All right, so we're looking for a recommendation that council approves lowering the speed limit from 50 kilometers an hour to 40 kilometers an hour on Rance Road from the intersection of Rance Road at Shamus Road, southeast side, to the intersection of Rance Road to Shamus Road, southwest side, and direct staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to support that. The background on this item, so the gravel portion of Rance Road, you have a diagram in your reports. It currently does not have a posted speed limit. It's assumed to be a 50 km/h zone, which matches the paved portion of Rance Road, but there is actually at this time no speed signage on the gravel portion. So if you have any roads in the town of Petawawa that do not have speed signage on them, it's automatically default that it's considered a 50 km/h zone. So just so everybody understands that. So we have had residents raise concerns to our staff regarding speeding and the possibility of lowering the speed limit on the gravel portion of Rance Road. A previous discussion on this matter took place between February 2019 and April of 2021, with the result being titled at council committee and defeated the motion to lower the speed limit 50 to 40. There's a timeline provided in the report, along with all the attachments that was in your report to review some background on what had happened in the past. Under discussion, Public Works staff have revisited this matter and reviewed speed monitoring data from 2022 and 2023. We've also reviewed the past timeline from 2019 to 2021. The 2022 data showed the highest speed traveled on that road as 44 km/h, with the rest of vehicles traveling 36 km/h or less. 85% of vehicles were traveling around 24 km/h. 2023 data showed the highest speed traveled as 68 km/h. I don't know how they attain that speed on that road, but that is not good. And 52 km/h for one vehicle, with the rest of the vehicles traveling 44 km/h or less. 85% of vehicles were traveling 23 km/h. So when you look at the past report and some of the past information, and then you revisit this again, and you look at the road from a road supervisor standpoint. I look at Rance Road from this standpoint. It's 930 meters, it's gravel. It is not a very wide road allowance. It's only 5 to 6 meters wide. There's two tight corners and there's no dedicated shoulder or sidewalk for people to walk on. So essentially anybody using the roadway is walking on the road and hoping that people aren't driving too quick to allow them to safely go down the gravel road and look at the water or boat launch. The road elevation is low in sections, and portions of Rance Road may experience, and we have seen flooding there during spring freshet conditions. And there are two public docking sites on Rance Road, resulting in a tighter road allowance during the summertime where residents park their vehicles and boat trailers along the edge of the road. And then for some comparative road segments in Petawawa that are maximum 40 km/h roads, these include Albert Street on the way down to Point, Island View Drive, and Shamus Road, which runs parallel with the gravel portion of Rance Road. And all these road segments are paved. After reviewing the current conditions along with past data and reports and having discussions with residents on this matter, Public Works staff agreed that the gravel portion of Rance Road should see a speed limit reduction from 50 km to 40 km/h. The financial implication is quite simple. It's just the install of two 40 km/h zone signs on the gravel portion. And that's the report. Happy to take any questions on this one.
Thanks again, Chris. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. I will support this. I mean, like I say, it is very, very small. There are tight turns. I have been walking and gets busy, especially in the summertime around the boat launch area. So for anyone who can't travel 40 or less on that road, I think they're in too much of a hurry because there can't be that much traffic on the end. So I'll support this thing.
Deputy Mayor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Chris. Chris, I also support this. I have been on that road a number of times, launching boats and whatnot, and it does get very, very congested. You can't sometimes even get vehicles safely past, and so it's not a road that we should be driving all that fast on at certain periods of time. It is gravel, and my experience is gravel is more difficult to stop on than it is a paved road, so I will have to support it.
Councillor Carney.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Service. I'll support this as well. I doubt that lowering the speed limit's going to change the traffic flow at all, because what's the average speed, 23 kilometers an hour or something? You have people trailering big boats on gravel road. They're not going to traveling very fast with their prized possession behind their vehicle. So, yeah, also.
Further comments or questions? Okay, so what are the recommendations? Okay, so the recommendation is the council approves lowering the speed limit from 50 kilometers an hour to 40 kilometers an hour on Rennes Road from the intersection of Rance Road at Seamus Road southeast side to the intersection of Rance Road at Seamus Road southwest side, and direct staff to prepare the necessary bylaw. If you're comfortable with that, I need a moved by Deputy Mayor Savard, seconded by Councilor Roots. I did it again, so that's reasonable, isn't it? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Chris, for all your work and all these reports. Very welcome. Next, we have PW 32 transit funding opportunities. Don's gonna take the crack at this.
Thank you, City Council, for having me this evening. I'm looking for direction from council regarding a couple of funding opportunities for transit. So currently, as you know, we have a community transportation grant program where we provide a community transportation service to our vulnerable sector population in partnership with your board. I just recently received notification that this grant program may be extended for another year, which is good news. So I have submitted a request that we would be happy to do that, and we're just waiting for our response. I've also secured funding through the dedicated gas tax fund for public transportation. We haven't received our amount yet, as it won't come out until January or February, but the previous estimate was approximately 75,000. Now, unfortunately, that grant program cannot be stacked with your community transportation grant program. So, let you be aware of that. I became aware of a new program, the Rural Transit Solutions Fund, the Planning and Design Project Stream. And this is for communities to do like a needs assessment or a feasibility study where we could receive up to $50,000 if our grant is successful. The grant is due in 3 days. Should council support this initiative. The fee to do such a study is approximately $62,000 to $65,000, and I would be asking council to support $15,000 and hopefully getting $50,000 from the grant program. And this would be a 2025 expense. And if we were not successful in getting the grant, then we would not issue a request for proposal to hire a consultant to do that study. And what this study would be looking at is an on-demand transit program or transit service for the community at large, which would be separate from our current program. And we'd want to keep them separate as they're two different funding envelopes. The other new one is the Ontario Transit Investment Fund. And this is to be spread over 5 years. And they want communities to work together to have transit services cross the municipal boundary. So if you submit an application where it's just your municipality, you're not going to be successful. Currently, the city of Pembroke is advertising a request for proposal for an on-demand turnkey transit service. It closes next week. They did extend their closing date. Now, if Pembroke is successful in getting a service provider, they have included language within their contract that other municipalities would also be able to participate as well to extend that service. And The proposal, I think, is to call it the Ottawa Valley Transit Service for that purpose, thinking that, you know, in the future, it could expand to Petawawa, could go to the Merchant Valley. So what, we also have like our official plan, and the provincial policy statement, all which support having transit for our residents. And as part of OTIF, I would be looking for direction just to enter into discussions with our neighbors to see if they're interested in putting in a joint application. No application would be submitted without us coming back to council and explaining what we're considering for that type of service or type of grant application.
Thanks, Don. A lot to take in there, but a lot of good proposals and grant opportunities. Questions from members of Councilor Cookie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you sincerely, Dawn, for this. Just a comment, really. I changed some of the links that you put up and looking at what North Grenville has on offer. It seems like something that would translate really well to this area. So I definitely support chasing this funding and pushing this forward. Definitely talking to our neighbors because it's going to be something that we have to tackle all together, given how much we cost each other's boundaries. So thank you again for this.
Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Don, so the dedicated gas tax fund for public transportation, is that the one that's got 3 days? Or is just reminding me which one that is?
Your mayor service, that would be the Rural Transit Solutions Fund. That's the one to apply for the grant to hire a consultant to do the assessment.
Thank you. Follow-up question, if I could, just with that, did you say if we weren't successful with the grant, you would not, or you would? I couldn't quite hear. Would be putting that into the 2025 budget?
If we are not successful with the grant, we would not issue a request for proposal. So just asking council at this time to put 15,000 into the 2025 budget.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions or comments on the proposal? I think the good thing, if any or all of this comes to fruition, is that we do keep our care for transportation service for the vulnerable population. But should this new form, like the one they have in North Grenville, come about, it's open to anybody who wants to use it. So we have 2 different forms of transportation to help our residents get around. And we are seeing more and more that we are having people move into our community who don't have a vehicle and are looking for ways to get around our town. And our town is large. So it is difficult sometimes to get around. So I think it's great that we could potentially provide a secondary form of transportation. The one thing I did notice is that the OTIF fund has only $5 million to spread amongst all the successful applicants. There's not a lot of funding to go around to a transportation system come about, but I guess every little bit helps. Okay, are there any other questions? Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just looking at this, so this would be for anybody to use, correct? And I'm just looking at the North Grenville one, cost per ride is $5 and a 30-day pass. The only issue that I can see having with this is essentially we're creating a subsidized cab service. You have taxi service, multiple businesses that run in this town, but we will now be taking business from the subsidized people's trips instead of them having to use the business that we already have in town. Because you provide for the vulnerable population already with care for, which I think is a great service. But I'm just a little hesitant now on opening this service to everybody when we have businesses that run this model. Yes, that is more expensive, right? Rate, I'm assuming, but it's still to the town subsidizing people's transit when there are options available. Well, they have to fix.
Any other questions? Councillor Trucci.
Thank you, Mr. I just to say, public transit is something that a lot of cities offer, and it's just part of the economic viability of what we're doing. So it's a contributing, result. That's my opinion.
And I guess there may be a certain segment of our population that couldn't even afford taxi fare. So this is an alternative for even another sector of our society that can't afford to take cab. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Carmen.
Thank you for your service. Thanks, Don, for bringing this report forward. In fact, we discussed it at our library meeting today. So the 15,000 that we would be requested to budget in 2025 that would only be budgeted if we were successful in this application. And which, any idea what the timeline is before we know whether or not we're successful?
In their service, I would say it probably wouldn't be until sometime in the first quarter of 25 where we would find out. So our budget may already be adopted before we find out, which is why I'm asking for 15,000 be set aside now, which if it doesn't happen, then those funds could be put towards something else. With council's approval.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so you see the recommendation. If you're comfortable, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Root. The council provides direction to staff to submit an application under the Rural Transit Solutions Fund Planning and Design Project Stream. And the council authorizes staff to enter into discussions with neighboring municipalities regarding the Ontario Transit Investment Fund opportunity. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Chris and Dominic.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have LEG 14-2024 revisions to human resources corporate policies and procedures E-01 in regards to hours of work and overtime. Colin, you're doing this one? With backup?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Service, through the council. Yes, I brought some backup today. Actually, I brought both of my staff members here today. Lots of backup. So yeah, before you tonight, I have two reports that, if approved, will all have revisions to our town's human resources, corporate policies and procedures bylaw. The first being revisions to the hours of work and overtime. The council will recall we did a policy workshop not long ago, at which time we presented, Jody was at that meeting as well, and we presented you this draft policy review. And I want to give a big shout out to Jody for her work on not only the report, but on the actual policy rewrites. She's been a godsend, and last week I thanked Kate, so this week I get to thank Jody. So the policy has been drafted and in reviewing data from 7 other municipalities as comparators, which Jody has done and vetted. And we found the feedback that came back from that, and then we implemented, of course, with your feedback from the workshop. We have this final document before you. So if approved, this revised policy will be scheduled to come into effect on January 1, 2025. And there's a few financial implications, well, not so much financial in dollar value, but a lot of it is more so in the numerous benefits that we can in terms of reducing the overtime work, which is going to have a value to it as well. But it'll also be better for our staff's, work-life balance, so to speak. We are all here, as council is aware, a lot of times we were going way over, and we had a huge impact also then at year end, or at the year end of the person's end of their work. They have these huge amounts of payouts, which was a big liability to the council to see that build up over the years. So one of the things that we did is when we revised this, we had the limits put on it, as it's in the policy, with kind of the maximum amounts per year. And I think it's a good improvement that the council, if endorsed tonight, will see the benefits of. I have Jody here. If there's any questions, we can gladly take them, but the recommendation is the council approves the revised human resource corporate policy
procedures E01, hours of work and overtime, and that the town human resource corporate policies and procedures bylaw 843-13 be amended accordingly. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Colin, Kate, and Jody for bringing this forward. It's great to see the overtime policy being updated. There's been a lot of conversation about this in the past, especially when somebody retires or leaves the corporation. And we're paying overtime rates for work that was done 10 years ago at today's rate. It's been costing the corporation quite a bit of money. So it's great to see this moving forward. I get questions or comments? Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for everything. I really do like the policy. The one question I have is regarding the call-outs and standby pay. I remember that policy meeting I did ask with regards to civic center staff, meeting call-outs or standby. I asked if we could get a number of times that they potentially would have been called out or would put in the wording, and I never received any information regarding how many times they would have ever been called out. So I know you've stated that it'll only cost us more if it gets used. But I'm just wondering why we're leaving the door open. If there's a door there, it's going to be open at some point. But if they're never called into the dollar value, that why are we paying? You have an on-call person through the public works. Anything that is required in the emergency at the civic center, OPP or our public works staff deal with. Correct.
I think that might have been more of a fairness question for fact allowing it for public works staff and then thinking that we weren't going to allow for civic properties or community services staff. But we can definitely, a week to decide if you'd like. I can have a discussion with Jody and we can get you those numbers before we bring it back before and also for final approval next week if you'd like.
I mean, I would appreciate that. I understand the fairness opportunity, but they are different job descriptions. One is serving local community. I mean, I get the building aspect, but if there's something wrong with the building, then it can either vandalism and something like that. I can wait till the morning, or I just don't want to see me paying somebody standby pay to never get used. It's just to be for the sake of fairness. I understand everyone wants to be fair, but they are different job descriptions.
Just to follow up on Councilor Driscoll's line of questioning, has the changes in our corporate structure in terms of our public works department now being responsible for all the infrastructure, including civic center building and all of the grounds, has that changed things, the way this policy is worded? Because would it not now be our public works department that is looking after all of that infrastructure, whereas the new cultural and I can't even remember what's called. Rec and culture department is merely looking after programming and tourism and all that other stuff. So the way this is written, would it not only be the public works department that would ever go on standby? Because they are in charge of those employees.
Well, yes and no. They have job descriptions specific. The city properties do have, like we have, I think, several of them that are specialized in certain areas of work that aren't the same job descriptions that our public works staff would do. So I do think there is a definite distinction between the position. Do I think a certain position could be or a problem they get city center could wait for the next day? It's a possibility. But I mean, whether they're on, like I said, they're on shift working and there's something that meant them staying an extra 2 hours to get a job resolved and fixed. Is that fair? I mean, I think it is, but
Okay, thanks for that response. I think what I'm trying to say is that those two different job descriptions now all fall under public works. That's just the point of the question I'm saying. And even though it's a different job description, I think based on the way we restructured the corporation, are they not now all falling into public works and our director Chris and our manager? Yeah, yes, we are. So maybe there needs to be a little rewording or. Councilor, could you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to point out, I see under section 270 call it standby pay. I only see public works identified under that policy. So I don't see that too, but it's a non-issue.
Okay, just before I go then, Jody, I saw you indicating that you wanted to try and clarify.
I just have to call in if you wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead, sure. Yeah. Maybe if you could do that, I might avoid a few more questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Service. So Councillor Driscoll, to answer your question, at the time we reviewed the policy last time, we were going to implement a standby for civic properties. But based on the feedback that we got from yourself and other councillors on if it was actually needed, I did ask for that information. Unfortunately, I did not receive it. So we've changed the wording in the policy so that they may implement a standby. So it's really, I think in this case, it's really meant to be like if we have a really important week coming up, or if there's anticipated issues, that we have somebody specific on standby for that period of time to know that any immediate issues could be dealt with. So it's not intended to be a regular occurrence. It's just meant to essentially leave the door open if they need it.
Councilor Driscoll.
Okay, I understand that. Would you be able to, like, what would be an example of them needing an emergency that if something happens during after hours, can handle? If there's a break-in, OPP are coming. If there's a water leak, Public Works can shut off the water. What else could happen if there's a fire? The fire department's gonna be there. So in that one building, what could be the issue that would be stated as an emergency? That would require a civic properties person to be there.
I don't actually know what it would be. This was something that came down from the director of that department, and they seem to think that it would be helpful for them to have this option. So I think we're not opposed to removing it if that's what council wishes. This is just how it's been written from the beginning, and yeah, I can do a revision if that's what council desires.
Deputy Mayor Sadman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 2 points. One, I agree with Adam. I think we need some data to be able to, for that stage, so I would be quite comfortable with the recommendation to remove it at present. And my second point is this is very well done, and really pleased to see the concrete attempts to work life balance, because so often in this municipality is no example the balance can mostly work in some ways. So I think that's really good. My question or comment is just around number 3, office closures. And it says that in the event there is a town closure on normal working days, i.e. during Christmas break. I don't know that we have an established Christmas is a great time. I know that there has been practice this year that there will be a closure at Christmas. So that is just an example for the sake of saying this could be an example, or is this an example as in this is the practice, so this is the example for the practice? Just need that clarification, please.
Sure, no problem. So my understanding is that there were some inconsistencies last year when there was some closures on non-staff holidays. So when we wrote this policy, we wanted to be clear that if there were days like that. And so that was the example we gave, because that was the example that people would know. So it's not in here as like it's, you know, a for sure thing that's going to happen year after year. It's just that's an example.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Councilor Kern.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thanks, Colin and Jody, for bringing this forward. This is great work on this. And I'd like to say that I do agree with Councilor Driscoll. Very good catch. I didn't pick up on that, or I didn't appreciate that when I first read through this, but I do agree with the councilor's comments regarding it.
Further questions or comments? Okay, so I'm getting the sense that we want a minor revision or amendment before we accept the policy. We're probably not at the point today to say as amended, right? You're gonna bring it back to us?
I'll bring it back.
Okay, So are you looking for direction to staff?
Direction to staff to bring the report back with the revisions that we discussed tonight, yeah.
The revisions being in section 2E, where it discussed the standby policy.
Mhm.
So that's it for that one then. We can move on to the
Yeah.
next one. Oh, all right. Councillor Kuzmin.
Yes, Mayor, just one question. I wonder if we could also just have a little bit of information about the number of callers or the rationale, just because those seem to be two question marks. If it's possible.
So that's for the standby clause in terms of the civic properties. Yeah.
I can look into that with payroll and see if that's something that they can provide to us.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Next, we'll go to LEG 15 2024, new human resources corporate policies and procedures, E 10 in regards to remote work. Colin, you're up again.
Thank you again, Mayor Service, through you, council. Before you read the new policy that we'd like to get council's approval on to amend the human resources corporate policies and procedures at E10, remote work. And that's the town's human resources corporate policy and procedure bylaw 843-13 be amended accordingly. So as we put in the report here, with the ability to work remotely today with the technology advances and work from other work sites, including a person's or employee's home, it becomes more feasible that staff is appropriate to propose a policy that outlines expectations to be followed while working remotely. Staff present and working physically for town sites continue to be the preference. However, there are some circumstances where working remote can be considered appropriate and permissible. So with that in mind, there's a few benefits such as reduced absenteeism, increased job satisfaction, lower stress, leading to a healthier, more engaged workplace. So as a byproduct of a greater production, when an employee is able to work from home instead of taking a sick day or a physical leave day, we're looking to get approval for working remote, have work remotely be a requirement of an employee supervisor, and that it is not a privilege, not a right or entitlement, or a term of condition of employment, and it may be denied or revoked if the expectations outlined in this policy are not met. So we want to be clear on that, should this be approved, if there's something that's going wrong, the supervisor, the employee supervisor or director has the right to cease the work from remote, and it is in the policy, because our mayor picked that up earlier today and pinpointed that, so that is under number 2. I wanted to confirm that with council. So the recommendation is there that hopefully council will approve the adoption of this new policy, and be happy to take any questions.
Questions on the report? Deputy Mayor Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't fall under questions, but an observation. I think sometimes it just makes sense to be out of the office to work because inside the office is too busy. And too many interruptions. So thank you for bringing this forward and that's support.
Councillor Kennedy.
I'll support it as well. It's a sign of the times where we are. And it's good that we're right with times.
Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do like it as well. The one question I have, I know it is not a right to be able to work from home and it can be remote. Would that ever be put in someone's contract, like a teacher hired or someone requested that in their contract we work from home? Would we ever allow that, or just to negate that opportunity to ever have that, someone negotiate that in their contract?
So I think we would have to look at that on a case by case basis. The intention is always firstly to have people in the office. It's just meant for certain exceptions, as Teresa mentioned, or children, people are contagious, things like that. As it stands, we have had people ask about remote work, and we have maintained that it is mainly an in-office position. So I think unless we got to a position where we needed to look at that more closely, we would continue to maintain the stance that it's primarily an in-house position. Okay.
Any other questions or comments on the policy? And thanks for bringing that up, Colin, the fact that it is a privilege, not a right, and it's at the director or manager's discretion. Because we have seen, although it's a great thing to have as an option here in our corporation to allow people some leeway depending on circumstances. But sometimes this program does get abused. And it's great for us to have a way to say, no, it is a privilege, not a right. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? You see the motion, and you move it second. Moved by Councillor Paju, second by Councillor Donovan. The council approves the new human resources corporate policies and procedures P-10, remote work, and that the town's human resources corporate policies and procedures bylaw 843/13 be amended accordingly. Call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Jody, Kate, and Colin. There are no general matters, nothing for closed. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, second by Councillor Roots, that the meeting adjourn at the call of the mayor. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Another productive meeting.